My name is Eugene Sledge. I enlisted in the Marine Corps December 3rd, 1942. My parents, they urged me to stay, but prompted by the deep feeling of uneasiness that the war might end before I could get overseas, I wanted to enlist in the Marine Corps as soon as possible. My name is Corporal Doherty. I am your drill instructor. This is platoon 984. If any of you don't think you need to follow my orders, you just step right out here, and I'll beat your ass right now. Your soul may belong to Jesus, but your ass belongs to the Marines. February 28th, 1944. I lined up to board a troop ship that would take us up to the Pacific. Real harsh questions raced through my mind. Would I ever see my family again? Would I do my duty or be a coward? Could I kill? To quote the 2010 miniseries titled The Pacific, the worst part about treating those combat boys from the Great War wasn't that they had had their flesh torn, it was that they had had their souls torn out. This powerful quote is a reminder of the often forgotten and overlooked experiences of countless young individuals who selflessly chose to serve their country only to find the thief of war stealing their hearts, their minds, and the ultimate price, life itself. In his highly acclaimed memoir, Corporal Eugene B. Sledge takes us through his experience in the Pacific theater of World War II. Let us look at his story to understand just how a soul of selfless innocence can be twisted and stolen. And with the Old Breed, a memoir by Eugene B. Sledge. You know, the part of keeping troops in fighting shape is, well, if they get you mad enough, they figure you're going to take it out on the Japanese. And they want you to be mean, mad, and malicious. And in retrospect, I doubt whether I could have coped with the shock on Peleliu had it been otherwise. September 15th, 1944, D-Day. An officer yelled, "Hit the beach!" There was a nightmare of flashes, violent explosions, and snapping bullets. It was a savage, brutal, inhumane, exhausting, and dirty business. I felt sickened. And I remember I asked God, why? Why? And I wish I were imagining it all. The sight of helpless comrades being slaughtered. We had to be constantly alert as we moved through the thick sniper-infested shrub. At that moment, I came across the first enemy dead I'd ever seen. I stared in horror at the glistening viscera that looked more like the guts and intestines of one of the rabbits I used to hunt as a boy. This can't be human. At that moment, a company veteran came up and plucked glasses off the face. Come on, Sledgehammer, don't just stand there with your mouth open. There's all these good souvenirs lying around. Would war dehumanize me so much that I too could just field strip enemy dead with such nonchalance? Well, the time soon came where it didn't bother me a bit. In the early afternoon of October 12th, I came across 3 Marine dead. Their bodies, they were mutilated hideously by the enemy. One of them was decapitated, and his head was on his chest. And his hands, they were severed from his wrist, and they were laying near his chin, and I stared in disbelief because I realized that the Japanese had cut off the dead man's and stuffed it into his... The second body was treated similarly, and then the third one was chopped up and butchered like a carcass torn by a predatory animal. My emotions solidified into rage and hatred for the enemy. And from that moment on, I never felt the least pity or compassion for them. I mean, my comrades would field strip, but I never saw a Marine commit this. On October 15th, we were relieved at last. And the cost of that tiny island was 1,252 dead and 5,274 wounded. Peleliu was 30 days of unrelenting, inhuman emotional and physical stress. I mean, None of us would be the same after what we had endured. Something in me died at Peleliu. But at Okinawa, that would be the largest and longest battle of the Pacific War. I mean, at Okinawa, I would be shot at more, see more enemy soldiers, and fire at more of them. In the early morning of D-Day for Okinawa, I squared away my combat pack on the ship. I was still afraid, but it was just different after Peleliu. We calmly picked up our gear, walked onto the beach, and began to move out. After a while, somebody yelled, "There comes another one!" I grabbed my rifle, and I started squeezing off shots. Enemy soldiers were coming out of a culvert. Each one of them pitched forward, spun around, and slumped to the deck. Dead where they fell. The order ceased firing came along the line, but we didn't hear the order. Another enemy soldier started crawling out of the ditch, and I shot at him again, hitting the mark. "Cease firing! Hey, you're supposed to be observing for the mortars. Put that rifle down!" We were sent here to kill Japs, weren't we? So what difference does it make what weapon we use when we get the chance? June 4th, we moved through the open country to check all the houses and the huts. And while searching a small hut, I came across an old Okinawan woman. She was seated on the floor, and I motioned for her to get up and come out, but she just stayed there and pointed at a wound at the left side of her abdomen. It was terribly infected, and it was surely fatal. It was an awful sight. And she grabbed the muzzle of my rifle and moved it in between her eyes and motioned for me to pull the trigger. No, Corman. There's an old Okinawan woman in there. She's been hit in the side real bad. At that moment, a shot rang out. And a Marine, he emerged from the hut, and I asked him, was there an enemy in that hut? And he just said, no. Just an old Okinawan woman wanted me to put her out of her misery, so I obliged her. No. I got the doctor, come help her. Just come here. You wanted to shoot at someone so damn bad. Why didn't you just trade places with a machine gunner and shoot at Japs? They shoot back. We're supposed to shoot Japs, not old women. On August 15th, 1945, the war ended. We received the news with quiet disbelief. We thought the Japanese would never surrender. And sitting in stunned silence, we remembered our dead. Because there were so many dead. And there were so many maimed, and there were so many bright futures that were just consigned to ashes, and then there were so many dreams that were just lost in the madness that had engulfed us. And I sat hollow-eyed, because I was trying to comprehend a world without war. War is brutish, inglorious, and a terrible waste. Combat leaves an indelible mark on those who are forced to endure it. The only redeeming factors were my comrades' incredible bravery and devotion to each other. I mean, Marine Corps training taught us to kill and to try to survive, but it also taught us loyalty to each other. And until countries cease trying to enslave others, it will be necessary to take the responsibilities to make sacrifices for one's country. That's my comrades did. With privilege goes responsibility. Thank you.